Good afternoon, everybody. It's Big Boy. First off, we'll get Indy the ham radio cat up here while she's fussing. She don't like being showed on camera. There's the ham radio cat everybody asked me about. It's our black cat. KF5BZF. Be sure to show your son I got the ham radio cat up here just for him. All right, there she goes. All right. Well, how's everybody doing today? It's KB5MIQ Big Boy. A little rambling talking about ham radio today. We're going to talk about. First off, on my last video, I was talking about proper ways to initiate a HF contact, and one of the ways I showed was using the term QRZ as frequency in use, and that's incorrect. One of those things you hear all your life as a ham and thought it was right. I mean, I've heard some hams that I really thought were sure enough rule followers do the same thing, but I had somebody, I post these videos on several Facebook ham radio related pages, and somebody very politely and very professionally commented and corrected me, and I appreciate him doing that. I don't mention names until I get an okay from somebody before I do that, but very professional, very courteous comment, and he's absolutely correct. Q code, that's not the correct way to use that. And me and WD5HKV and KF5BZF got talking online about it on the air, and looked online, and actually those Q codes come about in early CW days to make CW transmissions a little shorter. And I'm not real sure they're even supposed to be used for phone transmissions, but Jeff's been a ham since he was a kid, longer than I have, and he said 99 out of 100 I've heard do the same thing. So anyway, the main thing in ham radio is just speak English. You don't have to have any lingo. Just say what you got to say and tell the other person you're new at it, and they'll help you through it. And listen. It don't hurt to listen a little bit before you start transmitting. Another thing I'm going to talk about mobile stuff for a minute. That opens up a whole different avenue, especially with these newer cars. Now, I'm 61. My first two vehicles I had in high school was a 72 El Camino and a 73 Ranger XLT Ford pickup, half-ton pickup. Both had ample room under a dash. The way vehicles were made back then, you had ample room under a dash, and it was easy to get stuff through the firewall. I had an 8-track tape player under dash and a CB hanging under mine with plenty of room. Well, now these newer cars, with everything being a plastic and everything form molded in, and I'm 6'8" and I weigh 300 pounds, so I don't have a lot of leg room even in a big vehicle. I've looked at ways of putting a mobile in my vehicle, and I could. There's some ways I could do it, but I've chose a different route. Like I said, I've got a couple of the Baofeng talkies. I bought a Baofeng mag mount, dual band mag mount, and I've used those mobile. And I've got an older Yaesu 2 meter, I believe an FT270. I've had for I think since '09, battery shot on. I give $14 for an AC adapter. I already had a hand mic for it. Got an antenna adapter. And most of these newer vehicles all have a power output. Some of them say 20 amp rated power output. I don't know that I'd run a 20 amp radio on one of them. I think they're really more designed for charging personal cellular devices and tablets and such. But a low amp draw walkie talkie doesn't hurt a thing. That's what I use mobile. I've got I'll take that Yaesu or one of these Baofengs on a trip and just lay it in the console, and I've pre-programmed my route with different repeaters, and I've hit repeaters 25 miles away with it, which is ample for traveling. Another good idea about doing that way is if you're not the only one driving the vehicle, you're not leaving a operational mobile radio in a vehicle hooked up that a non-ham may be driving. Not to say that they would get on it, but it's not. It would be out of your control. Also, when you're through talking on these, just take them, put them in the console, unplug them, put them in the console. I even jerked the antenna off, throw it in the back seat. that helps keep from people from trying to break in to steal something. So it's a good idea, especially if you got an older talkie. You don't want to buy another battery for it that's battery shot on. Good way to use it up. Just put it in your truck, run it mobile. I think most of them are 5 watt talkies. I know Yaesu's a 5 watt talkie. Works great. Running mobile with it. And I don't chat on 2 meters like I used to anyway, but I do like to have one with me. Good example of that is the reason I started keeping a 2 meter back in my truck back in, I believe it was 99 or 98. We had a tornado hit a little town just east of us. And it pretty much destroyed it. Luckily, no one was killed, but it gutted the downtown area of it. Of course, I had done gone to cell phone, didn't have a 2 meter in my truck. Well, at the time, of course, cell phones have gotten a lot more coverage and more towers up than that now they had then, but you couldn't make a cell phone call. It was so saturated with people trying to find out who was where, and all that. You could not make a cell phone call. So from that point on, I put a 2 meter back in my main driving vehicle. So just a good idea. Everybody, I don't, when I first got in this hobby, I carried a talkie all the time with me. We had a real good repeater in this area that a lot of local hams was on. I keep a talkie. I don't use one like I used to at all. I really don't. But they're good to have around. And that's a good way to utilize one in your truck without having to put a full up mobile radio in there. And for some reason, the way these weather stripping on these newer cars work, especially in pickups, it's not as rough on running coax through the door as an older vehicle was. But it's next to impossible to get through the firewall. I tried to get through the firewall to run my antenna in more permanent, and when I finally found a way to get through it, it caused so much air hiss was driving me nuts. I closed it back off, so I just run it through the doorway. But anywho, just a couple of ideas for the day. We do our 10 meter round table on 28-450 at night. Generally Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. May get in there tonight. Usually don't on weekends, but anybody, if the band's open, you want to check in with us, check in with us. Like I say, get into the hobby, help people get into it. Oh, one other thing I just brought up. I've had several people, friends of mine, that are concerned with the world situation, especially the closer it gets to election time, and looking at ways to communicate. And I've had them call me, they're non-hams, and asking about ways to communicate and monitor. My recommendation, the initial recommendation I made to them was get a good scanner and the Motorola FMRS radios for just perimeter type communication. If you go the Bell phone route, and they're cheap and everybody can buy them, and I've always cautioned them about not transmitting on them unless you get a license. Of course, if we go into total chaos, I don't think that's really going to matter at that point. But I did tell them it's a good way to use them as a scanner to listen to public service. But anybody that asks you about how to communicate that's a non-ham, help them out. Try to steer them into getting their ham license, but always be sure to caution them that if they get a radio that will transmit in public service or in the ham bands, don't transmit in the ham bands unless you get your license, and do not transmit in public service at all. It's okay to listen to them, but don't transmit there. All right, anybody got any ideas they want me to talk about, just drop me a message on my QRZ profile page, and my email's posted. Anybody got a question or any way I can help them out with anything? I'm not good with modern digital communications, but I'll try to help you with anything else. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Thanks for everybody who subscribed. Pass the word to help me get my subscribers up. It's KB5MIQ, Big Boy. Everybody have a great weekend. 73.